Postafazul. She's around, she's a firm, she's a fully packed, she's around like my head. She's flat like your head.
Attention. Camp Northstar, senior staff, counselors in training. Please rise for our national anthem.
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
Broadcasting straight to you from a small medical spaceship, powering up for what is sure to be a great flat Earth year. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strange World, where the truth is often stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, the creator of Flat Earth Clues, which propose that all of us are living inside a Truman Show enclosed structure thousands of miles wide. Check it out at enclosedworld.com or just Google Flat Earth Clues. If you can't find it, I don't have any hope for you. My good friend and personal wingman for the show normally would be Jonathan from Jersey, but true to his word, he said he wouldn't be here this week, and his timing sucks, but that's okay. You know what? We power on. We go through. And the reason is because I'm not feeling very well, and I'll explain that in a second. But yeah, I don't know where Jonathan is. You heard all the warnings at the end of 2015, and here we are at the beginning of 2016, and I am flying solo tonight. So just, don't call in yet, because we're going to try to burn through a little backlog of emails from the mailbag left, on my very lazy secretary's desk. And then after that, maybe we'll take calls. I'm not really sure yet. A couple quick shout-outs. First one is to Mary for sending a very wonderful box of Mrs. Fields' production-grade cookies. She says, "Thank you for everything you've done. If you tested my own cookies, you will thank me for getting Mrs. Fields. Sincerely, Mary." I have not eaten them yet because I want to make sure I'm absolutely 100% before I eat any cookies. But thank you for that. The other shout out is to Terry Brown up in Canada. She sent a wonderful care package without even knowing that I was going to be ill. And she sent me all sorts of fun stuff, like a giant coffee mug and a bunch of tea, which I am drinking this very second. And so thank you very much, Terry, for all you've done there, and I appreciate all the stuff you sent. And of course, last but not least, which is why you guys probably don't notice I sound a little different, is my big thank you is to everyone at Providence Hospital over in Everett, Washington, which is north of Seattle, because for some of you know already, but I'll set the record straight, and that is I wasn't killed, I wasn't injured, I don't know if I was spiritually or psychically attacked in any way, shape, or form. But after doing my show and Patricia's show, and then doing an interview with Orphan Red where she interviewed me, and then another interview, I wasn't feeling very well, and so I got rushed off to the hospital and they wheeled me into surgery and had my appendix taken out, which was very, very interesting and somewhat an unhappy thing for me because, one, I don't like doctors or hospitals, especially mainstream doctors or hospitals, but and I've never even really checked myself into a hospital ever in my life, so this was kind of a big deal. And so going in there, I get in the waiting room and I'm not even in there, an hour and a half, and they say, oh yeah, we're taking you in. And then next thing you know, I wake up and I'm recovering. And so while everyone else was getting ready to party on December 31st, the end of 2015, I was sitting pretty much in an empty wing of a hospital, pumped up full of drugs, waiting for my ride so I could go home and rest. So anyway, thank you everyone at Providence Hospital for taking out my appendix. Hopefully that was what was actually wrong with me. They did say I was infected, but I am on the mend. I got out last Thursday, and it's now Tuesday. So I think everything's going great. I reacted a little badly to the antibiotics, and I just decided I wasn't even going to take the pain meds, so I just stuffed those in the survival gear. But yeah, so there you have it. So without further ado, let's get right to it, shall we? Mailbag, again, from my secretary's desk. John writes, Mark, I am a 54-year-old Scottish male living in Australia since 1985 and have been a born-again Christian since October 21st, 1989. Very specific. 1 week ago, I was pulled aside by two younger males at my church, and it was put to me that the earth was flat. I said, fellas, we all know the moon landing was faked and 9/11 was manufactured and executed, but I'm going to need a lot more persuading about this one. 8 days later, Mark, and almost 1 week lost at work as I researched the subject, I can only say, hallelujah, my dear brother. Thank you so much for liberating me from this deception and duplicity. I knew about the anomaly of Southern Hemisphere flying and the transportation as I flew from Sydney to Johannesburg in 1988 via a stopover at both Perth and Mauritius, and was staggered that it was the only South African airway that performed this route, and this was to be terminated in 1989 due to sanctions against that country. I did often wonder why so many of the flights going to South America from here went via the west coast of America, and always thought this was a long way for a shortcut. I have done the math with the traveling times and acknowledge the discrepancy of 5 hours or more heading from here and transiting to the other two Southern Hemisphere continents, also the weird routes. As a believer, I would like to hear things like God uses the same design techniques. For example, the world is 71% water and 29% land, and the human body is 68% water and the rest flesh. But when I looked on a conventional map, it did occur to me that it did not look like the proportions as there appeared more land. However, the flat Earth map, it conclusively looks 2/3 water and 1/3 land mass. I live 52 kilometers southwest of Sydney, and from a certain road I can clearly see the city lights, and it sort of looks like a silhouette. I have looked at your documentary. All makes perfect sense about the curvature of the earth. Mark, my dear brother, I require more information. Desperately thirsty for more wisdom. I always pray to my Lord for wisdom, and often when I am on my balcony at night, I look into the night stars and would say something like, Lord, why did you make such big real estate for us when it was not required, as we are less than a pixel in the universe? And although I tell him I don't need to know, I marvel at this occasionally. So you've done me and countless others a great service, Mark, and I thank you for that. Please reply to this mail, as I am not part of the Facebook epidemic. And that's actually a good way of putting it, a Facebook epidemic. And my communications are between me and my chosen friends or recipients. Thank you so much, Mark. A great documentary. John. So thanks, John. Fantastic. I love getting emails like that, and hopefully you were listening, and hopefully, we will be in touch. Carl writes, this is going back to the, for those people who don't remember, on this network where I actually did the debate, which was really more of a discussion between myself and Stanton Friedman, because we can't get Neil deGrasse Tyson to actually come on and debate anything. In fact, Neil goes the opposite way. Neil deGrasse Tyson will actually, and you've probably seen this on various clips, but you can look it up, it's all over YouTube, where he's gone on national television on both Bloomberg and CNN and actually asked the media on television to not let them cover anything regarding flat Earth, saying do not give time to the flat earthers. You can cover the sphere Earth people, but you can't give time to the flat earthers, which again is very, very strange in itself, very suspicious in itself. You want to look at this second level, which is, why would you do that on camera when you could just have easily done it behind closed doors? Just grab the producers and just say, oh, look, by the way, you probably shouldn't be talking about flat Earth, because when you do it on camera, you're talking about it. You remember what I said before a long time ago, and that was, you can't not talk about it and talk about it at the same time. Can't happen. So Carl writes about the Stanton Friedman thing. Hey, Mark, just a quick note to say the Friedman show was excellent, and to congratulate you for keeping it loose and light. The important thing was not to win, whatever that means. Rather, the important thing is visibility in the marketplace of ideas. By the way, in my humble opinion, call-ins in this kind of forum are counterproductive, in that putting a guest like Stanton Friedman on the same plane, not globe, smiley face, as a caller is a social faux pas. This is not to denigrate your caller, but to point out the inappropriateness of having callers at all. That being said, special kudos to Jonathan, who did an outstanding job of situational fumble recovery. The guy is so smooth, and it is almost like he knows what he is doing. Finally, your producers did an excellent job of minimal intercession and avoided the common mistake of attempting to micromanage. All in all, it could have not been done better, or maybe I should say it was flat out great. Pun fully intended. Carl. Thanks, Carl. And thanks, again to Chris and Cherie for picking up what Art Bell dropped. For those of you who are just hearing this broadcast for the first time or don't know what I am talking about at all, the Art Bell show, after doing a first flat Earth debate with the Morgals some months ago, decided they were going to do a second one, and they initially reached out. David Rubini, I was part of the email exchange. David Rubini, who was producer of the Art Bell show at one point, he tried to put together Art Bell and Neil deGrasse Tyson and me in the same room, and the Neil deGrasse Tyson camp shut that down real quick. There's no way ever, just so you guys know, Neil deGrasse Tyson and I are never going to be able to meet in the same room, because you just can't, and we'll go into that probably later. But shortly after that thing was booked, again, give Jonathan his kudos for his spooky spider sense. He said, as soon as that thing was booked, he said, no, because that debate is never, ever going to happen. I said, okay, well, we'll see. It's like, what are they going to do? Shut down the show? And then shortly afterwards, Art Bell shuts down his entire show, blames it on terrorism. He's being threatened, and he's got a daughter to think of, blah, blah, blah. And he pulls the plug and he says he's done for good. Now, he's quit in the past. But it was very, very interesting that he books this thing, and then, I think it was like for December 30th, and he kills that thing off, the 18th or the 17th or something like that. And but what was great was there were other people that were really, really interested in picking it up, and the people that jumped on it immediately were Chris and Cherie Geo from Truth Frequency Radio, this network you're listening to right now. And it was great. Stanton also agreed. Kudos to him, because he stuck with it. And my only regret was that he didn't really know what he was dealing with. I think he thought that flat Earth was a figurative term, not a literal term. Because, and you'll hear, if you listen to the interview, which is here in the archives and on YouTube, which is, he got on there and didn't know what to do because he had that moment of wait. Like a lot of people, it's like, wait, this is real? You mean like flat Earth, like that's a real thing? Flat, like we're like it's not a globe, and of course at that point he's not backpedaling at that point. Okay, sit down, Stanton. We had to kind of explain it to him, and Chris and Cherie, as moderators, just took their hands off of it and let it just happen naturally, and it was great. And I think in the end, feelings were hurt, and Stanton and I ended up talking on another show a couple days later, and I don't know if he's going to do that many more after that, but it's in his head. So great. It was fantastic fun to do, and I was happy to be a part of it, and I hope there's more in the future. So, moving on to more emails from my secretary's desk. This one's from Robin. And by the way, please don't forget, if you do not want me to use your name, I mean, I won't use your full name unless you want me to, but if you don't want me to use your name at all, either use a fake name or say in the beginning, please don't use my name. Like, put it in the first sentence. Do not put it at the end. Otherwise, I'll probably read it, because a lot of these I'm reading for the absolute first time, because I like to, get a kind of a first impression. I try not to rehearse things if I can help it. Hey, thank you for your intelligent and thought-provoking thoughts on the internet about a flat Earth. While I've long believed the moon landings to be fake and try to read between the lines in what I see and hear, I must admit rethinking what the world really is a bit of a challenge. However, I've always had an interest in science and our place in the universe. A different world model seems to me to be an acceptable idea. I don't yet accept the flat Earth model, but I'm not hostile to taking a look at all you say. It's a shame that intelligent thought so often meets with unintelligent hostility. I think it's interesting to take a step back and look at what we really know, and sometimes experience a greater understanding. We learn a great deal more when we actually take the time to listen to what the other person is saying instead of putting our hands over our ears and calling them an idiot. It is deplorable that so many people are afraid to express a view for fear of ridicule. Still, someone sometimes steps up to tell us when the king isn't wearing any clothes. It's up to the rest of us to take a look for ourselves and see if they are right. Thanks for the interesting journey, Robin. P.S. Science often has to take a step back and change its paradigm. It's the way we learn. If an idea does not match the facts, as well as, and then it got cut off, so that email is going to end anticlimactically. But yeah, thank you very much, Robin, and you're absolutely right. And again, for people, anyone, for the fights that are out there in the forums, I've said this so many times, I'm going to keep saying it though until I'm blue in the face, which is you can't get too mad at the people that are coming at you from the globalist standpoint, the globe Earth standpoint, because you were one of them. Everyone listening to here, including me, I did Flat Earth Clues, and I was a globalist. I tried to, I heard it through Matt Boylan's story last year. I'm sorry, back in middle of 2014. And, I tried to shoot that thing down for months and months. So, it takes time for people, just because you get it now, you got to be patient with the people that don't get it. As long as they're arguing with you, that means it's in their head. It's better if they're not arguing, if they just kind of wave you off and walk the other direction, fine. That's fine. That's probably the easiest way. But if they're arguing with you, at least they're arguing with you. And that's how we convert as many people. That's why this thing is so seductive, is because it's so polarizing. And once you get into it, it's obsessive. I see that more and more where people just get into it and they're sucked in and they don't know what to do. I mean, I cannot tell you. I'll probably read emails here where people say, "Look, I got lost for days," because once you start down the road, you'll do the same thing that I did. You'll get that first denial thing. It's like, no freaking way. There's no way this could actually be real. And and then you start digging faster and faster, like a dog for a bone in the yard, because you keep thinking, it's like, okay, if I dig faster, maybe I'll be able to figure out a way to get out of this. But you're just digging a deeper hole. And then all of a sudden you realize that you're in it. After a while, you're just sitting in this hole and you're looking out of it and you're going, crap, I'm in the hole. I'm not getting out of this thing. So anyway, thank you, Robin. Excuse me. And again, bear with me. I will be drinking tea on a regular basis, and during the breaks I'll be getting more tea because I had my appendix taken out, and it takes a little I've never had surgery of any kind. I know it's only minor surgery, but it was not very fun for me. And the antibiotics were, if I had to do it over again, because I apparently am allergic to most antibiotics, which is super. I love that. Rebecca writes, please don't read my name on air. Fine, I will not read Rebecca's name on air. I'm reading a book called The Shinar Directive by Dr. Michael Lake. Page 244 says the following. The story of the Tower of Babel is not God's judgment against the first man-made skyscraper. There are now towers on the earth so tall that one can see the curvature of the earth from the top floors. The tallest tower in the world, which has 163 floors and stands 2,000 feet high, is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Have you come across this argument in your research? Do we know anyone that can attest to this, or has anyone has evidence of this without using the fisheye lens? Thought this was interesting. Want to get your take on it. Thanks for all you do. Not to be named Rebecca. And yeah, I have heard that argument, Rebecca. And unfortunately, when you're talking about buildings, it doesn't even begin to. It's a tiny fraction of all the other height markers, which is first commercial air traffic between 35,000 and 40,000 feet. So yeah, the tallest building, 2,000 feet. I'm sorry, 2,800 feet. Big deal. No plane's ever going to hit that. A cruising altitude of a plane is 35 to 40,000 feet. And weather balloons now, are at between 100 and 130,000 feet, depending on when they burst. So that's 3 times higher than the commercial air traffic. And we can't even see a curvature there. So whoever's saying, again, I'll put the same challenge out to everybody else that I've done. We've been doing this now. We're going to come up on a year here in another 5 weeks. And since Flat Earth Clues was released, excuse me. And I'm going to tell you the same thing, and that is if you can find a picture of the curvature anywhere, I don't care if it's from a building, from a plane, from a weather balloon, take your pick, from a mountain, take a picture of it. Take it home, put it on your laptop, hold a straight edge up to it, a ruler, a piece of paper, whatever. Tell me if the curve's still there. If it is, send it to me, send it to anybody in the Flat Earth movement, and you will be very, very famous very, very quickly. We're month 11 here, and nobody's done it. And there should be thousands and thousands of people that have done it, and they haven't. And you have to ask yourself why. And it is because the curvature isn't there. Now, to Jonathan's point, which he mentioned to me some time ago, because there's been some 3D models out there, the Earth is, if you believe the globe model, the Earth is so big that even if you did get up high enough, even 100 miles high, let alone 100,000 feet, you probably wouldn't even see the curvature then, because it's so gradual. And you're saying, well, does that mean the flat thing from the weather balloon proves a flat Earth? No, it does not. But at the very least, what it shows you is that NASA is lying, because when NASA takes a picture from anywhere above, 70,000 feet, they show this extremely exaggerated curve, which makes the Earth, if you did the math, the Earth would be only like 400 miles wide, if that. And it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, anyone take a picture of the Earth from space or the Earth from anywhere, and that that shows me the curve. Do not send a NASA picture, a civilian picture, not NASA. Please send it. It isn't there. So anyway, thank you, not Rebecca. Bear with me, folks. I said I was going to do this show, and by God, I'm going to do it. Oh, that's why it's called Flat. The show is going to be called Flat Earth Resolve, because look, if I can do 2 shows and 2 interviews in the same 24-hour period, and then have my appendix out, and then come back and keep doing this, there's motivation here, and that's what I'm trying to do this for. Kind of set the example, and that is, look, I'm in the Flat Earth for the long haul. I'm not dropping this thing, not for a second. It's the biggest thing ever. It is the game changer, and it's going to change my life. It's going to change your lives. It's going to change the world's life, and you can be a part of it. So that's why we're here. The first show of 2016. I wouldn't miss it for the world. A little bit of a play on words there. Lorelei writes, and it was interesting. Every once in a while, I'll read like the title of the email. The title of this email is called Job 37:18. And the reason is because she actually quotes. And you guys can look this up if you want. If you have your Bibles with you right now, please break them out. Well, we're going to talk about a little flat earth religion. And that is, no, this is short. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to start quoting too much chapter and verse. But Job 37:18 says, "Can you with him spread out the skies, strong as a molten mirror?" And that's from the American Standard Version. Or the NIV Study Bible version is, "Can you join him in spreading out the skies, hard as a mirror of cast bronze? Yes, hard, firm." Thank you, Lorelei. And you're absolutely right. And while we're at it, since we're quoting chapter and verse, I've got to bring it up. That is, anyone who wants to have some fun, look up Werner von Braun's headstone. It should be this massive stone structure of him looking to the sky with a big bronze rocket behind him, and there's this wonderful 1,000-yard gaze, and instead there's just this little headstone with his name, the year he was born, the year he died, and literally a verse, or it just says Psalms 19:1. And if you don't know what Psalms 19:1 is, it's very, very interesting, because it doesn't actually say it on the headstone. It just says Psalms 19:1, and it says, "And the firmament shows his handiwork," which I think is very interesting for the father of rocket science and the father of NASA and part of the German war machine. Why would he, from the grave, talk about a dome-like structure that surrounds this world, or a barrier, or whatever you want to call it? Why would he talk about something from Genesis? The firmament. Why would he put that on his headstone? Is he reaching out from beyond and giving us clues? I think so. Anyway, thank you, Lorelei. Let's do one more before the break, maybe. Yeah, let's do Brian's real quick. Brian, and he's my friend from Canada. Great guy, Brian. He writes, "Hey, Mark, I listened to your complete dialogue with Stanton Friedman and thought you did very well in this discussion. And I also felt that Stanton was very polite and courteous. He was a great program. Ron and I actually met Stanton Friedman in person when he came to Toronto a couple of years ago with George Norrie. He's a very nice man. Nice work, Mark. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Brian." And thank you very much, Brian. Brian calls every once in a while, and he's very, very supportive of the whole flat Earth thing. And it's interesting because his twin brother Ron is not completely on board. I shouldn't say that. He's really not on board with flat Earth, but he likes debating about it. And again, it's in his head. I think Brian's on board, but he's got reservations here and there. And again, it's look, we're still trying to work out the perfect model. Even the producers of this show, we've got 3 different flat Earth kind of related things that are happening on this network right now, and we're still trying to figure out all the stuff that's going on in this, and it's great. It's a wonderful thing to be a part of right now. So we're gonna go to break, and when we come back, more flat Earth Mailbag.
Phoenix Rising Radio with Phoenix, Monday through Thursday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. And sorry I coughed into the mic just there because I forgot to hit the mute button. But that's okay. I'm working on some herbal tea. And yes, for those who still haven't figured out why I'm a little off, that's because I had my appendix taken out just recently and was released from the hospital last Thursday. People have already asked, by the way, how did you have it taken out? I had and I don't know the name for it, the three holes, the three tiny holes that were done in separate parts of my lower stomach instead of the one slit. I know it's kind of graphic, but I guess they wanted to do it that way. And a very nice doctor from Providence Hospital out in Everett, I believe his name was Dr. Koo, Koo, nice guy who had actually worked on my grandfather years ago. So go figure. What are the odds? Because it's a pretty big place. And thank you, by the way, to Orphan Red for shooting me a thing saying that keep going. It's like, all right, great. I'm not quitting. And again, for the people that think that don't believe in coincidences and say, "Oh no, you were attacked, man," they were trying to do a Joan Rivers on you. And for those who don't know what Joan Rivers is, please look up the Obama, Michael Obama thing, and how Joan just took it a little too far, and then she died during routine surgery. Now, was she older? Yes. Do I think? Yeah. Look, there were so many times, and security was not heavy in that hospital. So if somebody wanted to do a Joan Rivers thing on me, they had plenty of time to do it. So, they could have come up with all sorts of fun little complications, especially since, you could have just made up an allergic reaction to a combination of drugs. I didn't have any family with me when I was in there, so who knows? But the point is, I'm here to tell the tale, and something like this is not going to keep me out of flat Earth, even if I thought it was deliberate. Because it's bigger than that. It's the flat Earth movement and how the world could change for the better is worth more than me. I have joked with some people, but I'm absolutely serious. And that is, look, I could die in a car crash tomorrow, and I would die happy knowing that the flat Earth movement would go forward. And this thing is just going to get bigger and bigger, and no one's going to be able to stop this thing at this point. There's too many fuses lit on the ground. To use an old Western analogy, and that is, even if you wanted to try to put out some of the fuses, which you can't, you're never getting all of them. It's spreading out too fast, and it's not a question of if now, it's a question of when. So I'm hoping 2016. We will see. So let's move right back to the mailbag, which was left open on my secretary's desk. Bonus points for anyone that actually remembers who my secretary's name was. So feel free to email me or call. We're not going to take calls yet. Maybe I'll take calls at the end. I'm feeling a little better. The caffeine from the tea is kicking in, but we're gonna power through this. Randy writes, I live in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Last night, my wife and I watched SpaceX on their third attempt finally land a rocket on the Earth. I find it ironic how we have such a hard time landing on Earth in 2015, yet in the 60s and 70s we supposedly landed on the moon 6 times without death or failure. And nobody else seems to notice this. On another note, that rocket put something strange up there. My wife and I watched the rocket go up. Then shortly after the engine turned off, something that looked like a dim star appeared and darted erratically in every direction for what would have been tens of miles each way. We watched it do this for several minutes. It was very weird, and I'd never seen this from any of the other launches. I'm trying to imagine this thing interacting with the dome or whatever is up there, because I have never seen this before. I believe the landing of the rocket was used as a distraction from this thing. Thank you, Randy. If anyone else can corroborate Randy's story, please let me know. Excuse me. Steve writes, Hey, Sarge. You know those amateur rocket videos on YouTube? How come the sun is always off to the side, laterally from the camera? This introduces problems for me, but I am sometimes short-sighted. This behavior lines up with a distant sun, millions of miles away. A test to disprove this would involve traveling to the Tropic of Capricorn, as it's winter up here in the northern hemisphere, and launching a rocket there at noon. Then, wouldn't the sun be directly overhead? Furthermore, why do these amateur rockets stop at 120,000 feet? Some Truman Show proponents claim the ceiling is 80,000 feet, which was easily disproved by some of these rocket videos, and also Felix Baumgartner's jump. That's the Red Bull guy, if you guys forget who he was. I would like to see some private entity build something that goes much higher, something like SpaceX, but authentic. If we never went to the moon, how up have we gone? I'm sorry, how high up have we gone? Steve. Yeah, there's several questions there, Steve. Some I won't answer, some I will. The big thing at the end there where you were saying, there should be another group like SpaceX that should build a program. You got to remember that, like, if you all of a sudden inherited $5 billion and decided you were going to start your own rocket program, you would be, where are you going to get the engineers from? Every launch that you do is going to have to be registered with NASA or the bureau that NASA controls, which is the ATS. And at that point, you're going to be infiltrated from day one. So all your rocket, so let's say you hire 200 rocket scientists to work at your factory. How many of them are going to come from other sectors that are either going to work for the military or work for NASA? You're going to be watched from the very beginning. And so then what's your goal? Because your goal is to get above 120,000 feet. They are going to slow you down to a crawl. And that is, you slow it down before the rocket even gets on the pad. Maybe do a sabotage on the pad, maybe do a sabotage in the air. Take your pick. There's plenty of ways to slow this sucker down. So, yeah, is the thing at 80,000 feet? No. The balloons, absolutely. The balloons go up that are about 120,000 feet. Apparently, once you go that much higher, the balloons, you can't do much with them because they expand so far that they burst. In fact, I haven't even really heard of a balloon higher than 130 plus thousand feet. I haven't heard one at 140. So. But do I think that the enclosure goes much higher than that? Yes, I do. I think it goes up maybe even a couple hundred miles, maybe a couple thousand miles. Because, I'm looking at a snow globe that's on my desk right now, one that was sent to me by Terry up in Canada. Thank you very much for that one, Terry. People do not send me a whole bunch of snow globes. I'm not going to be putting all these things on my desk. I like the snow globe analogy. It's really, really good. She sent me a custom one, but do not send me a whole bunch of snow globes. But the snow globe analogy is true, and that is if it's like a snow globe, then you have a very, very high arc, and it could be thousands of miles high, almost as high as it is wide. But I don't think that's it. I think it's like an upside down salad bowl that's over a much smaller surface. Like if you took like a $50 or a silver dollar and you put a salad bowl, a medium sized salad bowl on top of it, the gap between the silver dollar and the edge of that bowl is quite a distance, which again could explain why Admiral Byrd, why it took him almost 30 years with aircraft. Granted, they were 1930s, 40s, and 50s aircraft, but 30 years with aircraft, he still couldn't figure out what the border of this thing was. He just kept flying around. There's ice and snow, setting up refueling stations. He had to do it methodically, on a sweeping pattern, and try to figure out what was going on. And then when he figured it out, okay, once you get one edge, then it becomes way, way easier to try to figure out the upper edge. Which is why they did rocket tests. And again, if you want to look up the rocket tests, which is very, very intriguing, look up high altitude nuclear testing starting in 1958 and ending in 1962, done by the Soviet Union and the United States. If you believe what they list, as far as the kilometer charts and the altitudes, they were sent, I think, as high as the stuff that they were shooting, which is what I've mentioned in other interviews. They go up as high as 400 kilometers, give or take. So I'd say at minimum, the minimum height for that thing that's up there is probably 400 kilometers, which is quite a ways. Gives you some breathing room when you're gonna shoot stuff, when you're gonna put rockets up and at least try to simulate a space program. It gives you a little wiggle room, which is why this thing has been going on for 60 years. So anyway, thank you very much, Steve. Steve's a regular. He sends emails quite often, actually. Glenn writes, "Hey Mark, just wanted to send a quick note from over the strait here in Victoria, British Columbia. And by the way, that's just north of here. I'm on Whidbey Island, Whidbey Island, up north of Seattle near the San Juans. And Victoria is actually north of the San Juans, up near in British Columbia. I'm not sure if I'm getting your weather or you're getting mine, but that's enough of it, huh? Well, thanks, Mark, for making a flathead out of me last June. And not only that, but for reintroducing me to Oingo Boingo and Danny Elfman. Is The Little Things no longer your theme song on Truth Frequency Radio? No offense to Jonathan if that was his choice, but I miss that tune as your theme song. It fits so well. What an artist Elfman is. I can see your island from here. So where's the curve, buddy? Cheers, Glenn. The blue spaceman from Victoria, the Great White North, below the 49th. Okay. Two real quick things. The Little Things by Danny Elfman is an excellent song. Did not get a lot of airplay, but it's very catchy. Danny Elfman, who wrote and most notoriously the theme for The Simpsons, dun, 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 dun. He wrote that, and before that, before he started writing tunes for movies, which he's made a ton of money off of, he wrote the theme for The Simpsons. But before he did that, he was the lead singer for an '80s band called Oingo Boingo, which has some very catchy songs, including Dead Man's Party and Weird Science. He was writing stuff for, even when he was in that band, he was writing theme songs for movies, which was great. And he couldn't get away from it, so he wrote The Little Things, which is for Wanted, a movie with Angelina Jolie, and The Little Things is a great opening track for it. I like it. I do like it, no question, and I've used it on a bunch of tracks or a bunch of the intros in 2015. But I got to tell you, for me, I liked Graveyard more, which was the band Graveyard, because they're kind of a conspiracy group, kind of a little more aggressive, and the song was called Goliath. And the words were really hard hitting and in your face, and it was really the kind of the message I want to get across. The Little Things, nothing wrong with it. I thought it was kind of cool. I like the riff, but I like Graveyard more, and I've heard some good feedback from Graveyard, and so it's a little scarier, but I like to balance things out, and so that's what I'm going to go with for now. So thanks, Glenn. And by the way, you cannot see the island from Victoria. Well, okay, maybe you can see the top part of it, barely, maybe. Well, we'll see. Anyway, up near Oak Harbor, maybe. James writes. What does James write? Oh, okay. So for those of you, who've realized that NASA has been dancing to our music for a while, and that is, when we said, look, you haven't done a picture of the Earth from space in 43 years, and all of a sudden NASA releases a picture last July. This is, oh yeah, by the way, here's the first picture of the Earth from space in 43 years. And then, we said there's no videos of the Earth from space, and they say, oh yeah, here's a video of the Earth from space. Well, it's not really a video, it's a composite. And then they just keep doing, we say, the British have never even been in space. And so all of a sudden, the end of last year, not even a month ago, they put up Tim Peake, if I'm not mistaken, the first British guy to actually go up to the ISS. Didn't show him docking. It was all of a sudden, it was like, oh, okay, he gets up there. They didn't even show the docking procedure. And he just shows up in the the capsule with his khakis and his polo shirt and his socks. Didn't even wear a spacesuit. You'd think he'd be a little nervous. You'd think that, if you're opening airlocks, somebody would at least wear, I don't know, shoes. And they didn't. But James wrote a couple little notey things because he was watching the footage that was going on while Tim was being broadcast. So I thought I'd rattle some off here. Hey, Mark, I pretty much listened to everything you've been up to lately, but after a look around YouTube and a decent Google search, I couldn't find much about the 15 minutes of pure BS that I've just watched. You may have already seen this, and if so, I apologize. And then it's a link to, you guys can find it, the first British guy in space. Let's completely disregard the amazing communications with almost no lag between question and response, despite such an incredible distance. Better than most of the calls I get on my mobile phone here, and try to ignore the nervousness and fear on Tim's face as he honestly answers some simple questions. Firstly, the whole thing is hard to watch without laughing, on the basis that you could cringe and then ask serious questions about every answer he gives, although these are my personal favorites. At 3 minutes and 33 seconds, the most unexpected thing, the blackness of space. How could space possibly be black? I've stood looking at the sky in a remote area of New Zealand several years ago, and the quantity of stars lighting the sky is incredible. So in space, without the ambient light on Earth, we're to believe that you can't see stars anymore, and poor Tim is plunged into darkness. At 6:55, science. Still in love with science? When did science start being referred to like this? Did we miss the announcement that science has finally been declared a religion? 7:41. A cup of tea in space. Obviously, no British astronaut could get by without a cup of tea. delighted with the quality of the tea. You couldn't make this up. If you can make sense of the rest of his answer regarding boiling water and the existence of 10 times the amount of carbon dioxide, then you're much wiser than I am. 821, the door signing. Blink and you've missed this, but I've attached a still photo for you just in case. What sort of low-budget actor are we talking about if he can't remember the correct way to spell his name? And of course, the infamous, and you guys got to look this up yourself when you get a chance, at 8:50 in, the zero gravity somersault, where he actually does a somersault for the reporters that are supposedly down in London, right? And the comment is, good God, I nearly wet myself watching this. Forget for 1 second that the harness slips as he's halfway around, and see how well he can right himself and stand back up straight in a constant state of free fall. Honestly. How can they show this on TV? How do people watch that and believe what they're seeing? Thoughts? Stay flat, James. Yeah, it was embarrassingly bad. But at the same time, again, I appreciate, I'm humbled for the fact that they're dancing to our music. The fact that I've mentioned several times, including mentioning the James Bond reference from Diamonds Are Forever, that Britain stayed out of everything when it came to the space stuff. Just stayed out entirely. Didn't even put themselves in the running for stuff because they were above it. I will say this for the British: they have some dignity, and they wanted out, and so they didn't go up. And so here they just in 2015 for no apparent reason, it's like, oh yeah, let's put a man on the ISS. Which, by the way, if you want to look it up, I think Canadian newspaper just ran the story last week, which was that they're going to pull out of the ISS. They're going to shut it down. So at the end of 2015, let's make no mistake here. There are two more stories that people it's going to get more and more press. The one is they just canceled the Mars program, canceled the Orion program, which I mentioned I don't know how many times in interviews because of the Van Allen belts and that stupid thing that they put on their website, which is Orion Trial by Fire that they released in October of 2014, where they talked about how they couldn't get it past through the Van Allen radiation belts. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, and then they get their budget for 2016, about $20 billion. And in rapid succession, they say, oh yeah, we're going to shut down the Mars program because we couldn't get a probe from France in time that was going to go with us. So that's the reason to cancel the entire thing. I mean, indefinitely. If you say no, it's not shut down forever. It's like, oh, tell me the launch date. The last launch date I heard was ballpark was sometime in 2018. Now, and then the other thing was we're going to shut down the ISS. Really, the thing that we've been hammering on for the last 9-10 months. You're just going to shut that down, and the reason is, oh yeah, we're not going to use it anymore. We're going to do a moon base instead. And I won't get into that too much right now, but that is even more ridiculous. You think faking stuff in a zero gravity environment is tough? You try to fake it on the moon with what's supposed to be 1/6 gravity, and tell me how you're going to pull that off, guys. Out of the frying pan and into the freaking inferno on that one. You were never going to be able to pull that off because 1/6. That means that if you're 180 pounds, that you weigh 30. And you're thinking, so why does that make any difference? Well, because then you've got to deal not just with this weird fake zero G stuff. You got to deal with feats of strength, because some things are going to weigh heavier than others. And a 180-pound man, when they first get to the moon, they're only going to weigh 30 pounds. Yeah, they're going to be walking real slow, because their muscles they're going to be bouncing around all over the. I don't want to get into it right now. Anyway, so thank you very much, James. So let's get rid of that one. Tim writes, what does Tim write? Hey, Mark, whenever I hear the words jumping to conclusions, it's impossible for me not to envision the jump to conclusions, Matt, from the movie Office Space. You're pretty quick with the movie references, so I probably just wasted a couple sentences. This meme is an avenue through which I'm currently expressing my angst over the never-ending conflict and drama and the flat Earth has the potential to bring people together, there's also an irony to it. Sometimes it's like attempting to a meeting of Bill Hicks' people who hate people party. When you understand that you've been lied to about something this big, what won't they lie to you about? That doesn't exactly breed trust among the already hyper-vigilant and paranoid conspiracy theorist types. Takes one to know one, you might say. Anyway, I'm trying to keep my mind open and not jump to conclusions about anything I can't directly prove for myself, which has been more than enough to show that the globe model is bunk. Unfortunately, because of the FE card in the Illuminati card game, it's obvious they have been preparing for this and clearly have their players in the game to steer the majority toward their desired model, as well as sow discord via the old divide and conquer strategy. Given this, we'll probably never know the truth about the true map of the world. What's really going on with the sun, moon, and stars is well within the Arctic and beyond the Antarctic. For now, I think the best course of action is to stick to a pretty strict drug regimen to keep our minds limber. Either that or jump to conclusions. Yeah, excellent point there. The Illuminati card game, if you haven't already seen that, there is a card in there. Out of all the cards you could put in the Illuminati card game, one is the Flat Earth, which is a fascinating card. And that is, the opening line in it, and that is, people laugh, but the Flat Earthers know something. And that's all you really need to know about that card, because why is that card in there? Why is that line in there? It's great. So yeah, thank you very much, Tim. Moving on. Michael writes, as far as I can ascertain, there are only 2 planes flying to and from U.S. Antarctic McMurdo Base. They get at least 1 barge twice a year, but only these 2 planes. And he actually has pictures of them. United States Air Force C-17A, number A-8203, and United States Air Force C-141B, number 5-0240. And he has these numbers, and that actually matches up with what Sean McCrary and the submarine guy were saying, and that is, they were saying that, man, it's got to be Air Force. It's Air Force has got to be running the show down there, which in this case it appears to be. That's it. Their home base, McCord Air Force Base, is just south of you in Tacoma, Washington, which is more plausible that these 2 planes carry passengers inside the windowless cargo hold, because you look at these planes, there's no windows in this damn thing, fly them to the nearest Arctic region to observe the northern lights in 24 hours of sunlight, or that these 2 planes alone take personnel to the most hostile environment known to man, tens of thousands of miles away from their place of maintenance, McCord. If you ever wonder what sort of shenanigans take place in the Antarctic McMurdo Base, this will give you some ideas, and then send some links. So thank you very much, Michael. And if anyone wants to look up those numbers of those planes and see what's going on there, remember United States Air Force numbers 8-8203 and 5-0240. And again, bear with my voice. I am drinking tea and recovering from minor surgery, not bullet wounds. If it was bullet wounds, I would have told you. They're going to have to kill me. It's true. This is a fun one. This is a quick little thing that I got just before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, but flat Earth style. This is from Chris. Hey, Marcus, is the night before Christmas here in the Gold West of Australia. So Merry Christmas and God bless you always. Here's a little ditty I penned for the occasion. 'Twas the cool eve of Christmas, and with the morning in sight, a time to sing praises for the year we found light. 2015, a year of change, but even more than that, the year we rediscovered that our Earth was quite flat. No more are we blinded by science and false chat, for now there are voices like Mark, Red, and Pat. David, Rob, and Fran, Dan, and so many more. The new enlightened force now evens the score. Rejoice, for it's Christmas. Rejoice, our new light. Rejoice in the future. It's ours to make right. It's the season of love, of peace, and of joy. And for the child in us all, there is always a toy. Nice. Thank you. I got enough time for maybe one more. Let's see. This one's from Captain Obvious. I can do 2 more. Captain Obvious, I'm getting to write another book. I would like to get some comments via email, or you'd like to add to it. Here's the latest video I put together. Appreciate this. Yep, I picked the wrong email on that one. Sorry. Let me do one more. I think I got time. Okay. Mark, on 12/22/15, I watched my first video on Flat Earth. 2 days in, I'm a believer. I just listened to your interview with Stanton Friedman. I'm emailing you to say thank you for your sharing. I live in Houston. If you need anything from here, let me know. I'm still trying to figure out where I fit into this. Maybe we should make a bumper sticker. Just a thought. I do have one question for you below. What percentage of the people do you think believe in Flat Earth and the dome? I'm thinking maybe 1 in 1,000. Jeremy. Jeremy, I think it's way more than that. I think it's way more than that. And I think and I don't want to necessarily tie it to the whole are you straight, are you gay thing. But when I say there's people in the Flat Earth closet, what else are you going to think? There's people in the Flat Earth closet, a lot of them. It's because they don't know who to talk to about it. And so when this thing comes out, there's going to be a lot of people going, oh, wait, you knew? And there's a lot of people. Do I have a number for you? No. But we'll find out soon enough. We're right back.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
The wicked ones obviously under heavy Masonic influence.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent, and this segment goes out dedicated to all those fine doctors and nurses at Providence Hospital in Everett, Washington, which checked me in and did a last-minute appendectomy, including the surgeon, which was Dr. Koo, K-O-O. So if Dr. Koo is listening, and I really doubt that he is, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm still recovering, but every day is stronger and should be a piece of cake. So where we left off was mail that was left on the secretary's desk. Let's get right to it, shall we? Herb writes, it wasn't Herb, it was Herb's wife, apparently. My husband watches RT all the time, along with the other major news channels. RT is Russia Today, if you guys didn't know what that was. And then you can check that out at rt.com. Most of your news channels have been some sort of globe turning in to put people into trance, but for the first time tonight, they showed a world turning, and suddenly the words, "the world is not flat," flashed across it. Check Russia Today sometime. I wish I had a pic of it, but I'd never seen that before. I think they're getting worried and they're ramping up the brainwashing. Thought you would like to hear this, Mary. And yes, I actually did see that on the Russia Today logo, which is weird. We'll see more and more of it. You're going to see more and more people that are going to try to do subliminally or tie the whole flat Earth thing to anything that's crazy, like denying that there's terrorism, or denying that there's climate change, or denying that there's anything. Take your pick. They're gonna try to tie it. So thank you very much, Mary. Let's see. Mark writes, "Hey Mark, I've really enjoyed your Flat Earth Clue series, and the information you present is quite compelling. There are a few things I'm not totally convinced about, but I have a question. If Antarctica is there to prevent us from venturing to the edge of our world, why does the Arctic exist, in your opinion? In the globe theory, it kind of makes sense to have both a north and south frozen poles. Regards, Mark. Yeah, this is a question I've gotten before, and that is, you got to remember, if you're going to try to pretend there's a globe, because the people that built this thing, you want to call it the divine, you want to call it an advanced race, take your pick. I'm not going to choose sides right now. And that is, you need a north and south pole. You need it to at least simulate a globe, which means you need cold areas in both. So, and the Arctic works out very, very conveniently because you can just put a big magnetic center either underneath it, either a hard magnetic core, underneath the surface, or a magnetic mountain, or maybe a rotating core, whatever you want, but it works out pretty well. So the Arctic becomes quite handy, and again, it fits. It fits in the globe model. You got to remember, the globe model works and has worked for, the better part of 500 years because you can kind of massage it into fitting just about any mathematical or temperature or environmental structure you need, especially when it comes to temperature. Because you can divide it into two halves, when in reality it was actually just an inner ring and an outer ring, which is it's intriguing as all hell to me. So anyway, thank you, Mark. Oh, who's next? This one, actually didn't sign his name, but I'm going to read it anyway. First off, forgive me if my writing skills are less than perfect. Punctuation, run-on sentences, etc., etc. I want to thank you for what you've been doing, especially with all the infighting in the Flat Earth community. I've watched all the Flat Earth Clues videos and listened to most of your Strange World podcasts. I came onto the Flat Earth scene through Rob Skiba, as I was listening to one of his podcasts where he discovered you and the clues. I do believe in a creator in the Bible. That being said, I follow no organized religions whatsoever. Just getting that out of the way. I am of the small percentage that didn't find it too hard to accept the flat Earth, not quite like Mr. Skiba, as I am 99% sure the Earth is flat. I have been awake for this matrix for roughly 5 years now, probably more than I can safely say, but 5 for sure. My wife and kids think I'm a nut, but luckily I have other redeeming qualities. I am 41 years old and have been aware of this machine matrix since the age of 6. There are basically 3 people I follow on YouTube: you, Rob, and Zen Garcia. Interesting 3. And all believe in a flat Earth. You, Rob, and Zen's work have only strengthened my faith in a creator. I will say it's a lonely thing to be a flat earther. I long to commune with like-minded people. Anyway, I just thought you would like to hear my testimony. Oh, what's this I hear about some sort of survival guide you have? I am very interested. Thank you, and keep up the good work. And yes, I will email you right after this show a copy of the survival guide for those people who wanted one. I mentioned it. I wrote, when I did a blog some years ago, I wrote a free survival guide, about 100 pages on everything you would ever need. I researched stuff like that for years and years, and it's in a little PDF file, very small, and I send it off whenever I can. All you have to do is email me, msargent23@comcast.net, and mention survival guide in the subject line somewhere, and you don't have to be lengthy. Just say, hey, want a copy or want whatever, and I'll just shoot it off to you. It's easy enough to do, and I hope you never have to use it. But if you do, then at least there was some benefit there. So Marilyn writes, sorry, not Marilyn. I've got to read the email signatures because some of these come from multiple joint accounts. Michael writes, hello, Mark. I have been listening to several of the YouTube videos of you and Patricia Steer. In episode 31 of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, you mentioned challenging Hollywood actor types to get the topic of Flat Earth to a higher profile. I suggest that you or someone approach the Mythbusters producers to see if they have the guts to take this topic on. The most obvious topic they could challenge, the curvature of the Earth. Thanks for all you or Patricia are doing to get this topic out to the sleeping humans. I predict that you will hear cricket sounds from Mythbusters. Oh, yeah, Michael. Unfortunately, what you don't know, what we already know. And that is, you got to remember, they dedicated an episode. Forget about the flat Earth. They completely believe in the moon landing, to the point where they dedicated an entire episode where they went to some observatory and set up a laser, supposedly bounced the laser off one of the reflectors on the moon, and the signal came back, and they were jumping up and down. It's like, look, we proved that they went to the moon, blah, blah, blah. So no, they are absolutely bought and paid for. The fact that you see them, the fact that how can I put this delicately without swearing? if you see anyone that makes an appearance, even if they have their own reality show, and they make an appearance on CNN touting some mainstream line, they're already bought and paid for. So even though I've liked some of the stuff that Mythbusters has done, like, shooting bullets straight up in the air and measuring their velocity, little tiny scientific experiments like that, I've liked some of the stuff they've done in the past. When they went on and were literally jumping up and down and giving themselves high five, and it's like, yeah, we proved that man went to the moon. Yeah, that's when I stopped watching that show forever, and was not shy about telling anybody that it's like, yeah, those guys are absolutely, bought. So thanks, Michael. But no, Mythbusters and I probably not going to be getting together anytime soon. Sorry if I'm whispering. I just had surgery. So Ron writes, I just watched one of your videos discussing the flat earth world model. I must tell you that at first blush, it was hard for me to wrap my head around it. However, I have discovered the big lie that lives within all of our reality and man-made institutions that causes me to take a second look at the flat earth world model. I was hoping that you could help me with that. I have researched some of Admiral Byrd's journeys that suggest that he discovered a new land inside the Earth populated by advanced races, and it could be one of the reasons that frozen land is off limits. This is one area that I would love your comments on. Your new friend, Ron. The big thing that Admiral Byrd is known for is the hollow Earth theory. I love it, and I do. I think there's truth in all the coolest myths and legends. I think there's truth in them, and I think there's another civilization living below us. Yeah, I do. Because it wouldn't take much to do. You got to remember, our entire civilization, or at least 95% of it, lives in a narrow band of altitude from like sea level to about 5,000 feet. You could dig a cavern, below ground, make it, 10, 15,000 feet high. What could you put in there? Put anything you wanted in there. So if he said that he flew a rickety plane, inside a giant cavern and ran into an advanced civilization, and with advanced life, life forms, then what? Yeah, I totally buy it. So, and which is why I think he was shoulder tapped at that point to do the Antarctic stuff. Because remember, he went to the Arctic. He did the North Pole thing. All that Hollow Earth stuff was really based around one incident, which was in 1926. But from 1928 until his death in 1957, he spent the rest of his life in Antarctica, which meant it was way more important. And you got to ask yourself why. Because you'd think the Hollow Earth theory would be kind of a big deal, but it was just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. So thank you very much, Ron. Moving on. Damien writes, hey, Mark, big-time supporter of yours and first-time mailer to you. I always like that. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Enjoyed your debate recently with Stanton, though I felt it wasn't much of a debate. You're too sharp, buddy. Anyhow, I just saw this and thought, wow, I should send this to you, through to you for your thoughts. This is from the news here in New Zealand where I live. Maybe in something in it for you. And it was going off sort of the, there was an interesting, well, I'll just read it. It's an interesting little, so we got time for it. A Malaysian Airlines pilot had an unexpected Christmas surprise when his flight took off from Auckland Airport and headed in the wrong direction. Only 8 minutes off the ground, the pilot of the direct flight to Kuala Lumpur on Friday questioned the direction the plane was headed, which was taking the flight further south than he had planned. He contacted air traffic controllers at the Auckland Oceanic Control Center just minutes after the 2:23 a.m. takeoff. Control staff on the ground informed him of the slightly different route the plane was undertaking to get to the destination. A spokeswoman for Airways said the glitch could be explained by a miscommunication of plans. The flight path the airline filed for us was going to Kuala Lumpur, but following a slightly different flight plan than the pilot had on board. Quite quickly after taking off, the pilot realized that the direction that they were sending him was different. The plane was heading towards Melbourne, rather than taking a more direct route to the Malaysian capital. The pilot adjusted to the surprise, continuing across the Tasman Sea before heading northwest to the destination. The spokeswoman said the new route was in fact an established flight plan to Kuala Lumpur, but not the one the pilot had planned to follow. Airlines often choose different flight plans depending on weather and other variables. The spokesman said Airways could be looking into the incident. She said passengers on board the flight were in no danger, as the flight was still under radar control. The glitch comes after a precarious couple of years for Malaysia Airlines, and then go into the Malaysia MH17 and the MH370, those planes which disappeared. So yeah, Interesting stuff. Anyone almost looks that up. The title of the article is called "Malaysia Airlines Christmas Route Surprises Pilot Leaving Auckland." So yeah, someone do a little digging into that one. That one's kind of fun. Next one is from John. John writes, "Hey Mark, there is so much wrong with this article," and he links something to People magazine, where the article was talking about. Give me 1 second here. Sorry, I gotta remember this. Oh yeah, Prince William. Oh, I remember this article when I got this. Prince William, the articles from People magazine. Prince William sends a Christmas message to a South Pole explorer. "You're doing a cracking job." And this was, the day after Christmas. And what's interesting about it, he goes, like the programming, the word globes used, the number 33, church and family, bouncing children, slopes and hills of the southern Atlantic and the Antarctic. And the best one, 100 miles from the South Pole, his final destination. So yeah, interesting stuff. Check that one out if you get a chance. That's in People magazine. We're going to see more of these. Trust me, 2016 is going to be a big, weird year. I bet even my ex-co-host would agree to that. Deanna writes, "May I ask, are the theories introduced and expounded upon in the Flat Earth documentaries something you honestly believe in, or are you a producer narrator for others' purposes? And if you do believe, what interested you in the first place? I'm hesitant to ask too many questions. While there is a lot of reading material out there, I really prefer talking to someone, or at least corresponding. I have had a lot of questions on this issue for quite a while, but I feel a little lonely in my quest for answers. This is the most popular subject, it seems." Thank you, Deanna. Deanna, and I'm sure by the time she listens to this, she'll know full well that that I believe in it. I absolutely believe in it. Am I doing this? Am I producer narrator for other purposes? No, I am not. It's me and a small band. Well, actually, the movement's getting bigger and bigger. It's amazing to see all the different people that are doing it. Who knows who's going to be doing more and more stuff as this thing keeps progressing. But what interested me in the first place, you already know. You'll have to listen to the interviews. I'm not gonna repeat that one too many times. People are sick of hearing that. But it's something I absolutely believe in, and no one's gonna be able to shake me from this. Which is why I said I'm never ever gonna recant on it ever. This email is way too long. Maybe I'll come back to it. So we won't look at that one right now. Wes writes, "Man, I just want to say thanks for having the courage to come out and say what we've all been thinking. I heard you on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie and watched your Flat Earth Clues. It's about time someone stood up and put it out there for us. Thanks, Wes from Texas." And thank you, Wes. And for those of you who don't remember, I did a George Norrie interview, early in 2015, and they contacted me after I did Ground Zero. I didn't even have a website up, and it was a lot of fun to do. And he kind of let me run with it. And like a lot of radio people, in his case, he wasn't sure what to make of it, so he couldn't really attack it because he didn't know anything about it. He didn't know if it was a lot of people when you're first talking to him about it, they're listening, they're absorbing it, or they're trying to absorb it, but they're the words don't make any sense to them because of all the conditioning they've had over the years. So, if you want to check it out, it's not, you should be able to find copies. Just type in George Norrie, Mark Sargent on YouTube and you'll be able to find it. It's real easy. So, 10 minutes to break. I think we can punch through a few more of these. Bob writes, I think it was Bob, B. Keenan, it better be Bob, or Brad. Who knows? Probably Bob. "I've been listening to you on YouTube for a while now. I would like to add an observation. If Antarctica is off limits to us as civilians and we never have seen the full picture as to what it looks like, wouldn't that make it the perfect place to fake moon footage from? Or Mars probe footage? Maybe all of what we have seen as footage from those places are just from Antarctica. It would look foreign to us and no one is allowed to visit there. That is a good place to look for the abandoned Apollo vehicles." Not bad, except that why would anything be abandoned for the Apollo program? It would all be a soundstage. You get much more control from a soundstage in a desert inside your own country where you don't have to worry about inside a military base. That way, you secure the whole thing. No one's going to accidentally, fly a helicopter into a place and take some pictures and say, hey, it looks just like Mars. No, you want to control everything. Leave nothing to chance. So as much as the Antarctica, that's not bad. There are way easier ways to do it, way more secure. And from a production value, you can get more bang for your buck. Although NASA seems to waste a lot of money on poor production value. So thank you, B. Keenan. Thomas writes, I saw you on Facebook where someone had a camera in a fixed position and took a picture of the sun at the same time every day. It formed an ellipse. The picture is attached below. What could be added to this is the date of each location and a longitude and latitude location. I would like to see this done on a plane-wide scale. Add to this what some people are doing in regard to using longitude and latitude to map this place and some accurate models of what this place really looks like and what the real distance is to the sun. If the same mapping could be applied to the moon, we could get its distance as well. Triangulation would be used to get the distances. Please bring this up on Strange World, as it would need to be a coordinated effort. By the way, hello, Jonathan. LOL, Thomas. Thank you. And yeah, we'll see what we can do there. Moving on. I think I can almost get through all these things. Go figure. Okay. As passionate about proving the flat Earth model as anyone else in the arena remains my current focus. I am now using NASA lunar solar data to demonstrate a flat Earth model. This is a personal quest, comparable to a person like yourself, the Morgile, Jeranism, and Rob Skiba. But I'm stuck in a timeless vacuum of data research only socially inept people are capable of, which I'm perfect for at this moment. Quick background for me, I was a structural evaluation engineer professionally and did lots of litigation. The method I used was more geared towards using the bad guys' info and showing how they perjured themselves in doing so, then presenting our side, which was based on solid fact. That was a slam dunk. That methodology proved highly successful. I had lots of good help from much smarter people to boot. You and Rob gave me the notion to presume NASA knows what the FE model really is and has generated their solar lunar data accordingly. As such, I'm simply reverse engineering their data to prove they're using a flat Earth model. As you well know, all the answers lie in the southern hemisphere. Again, you were the one planting the seed when during one of your talks with Patricia, you stated that during your computer gaming days, the model was always based on the flat Earth. I believe NASA did the same exact thing. Here's what I'm doing. References made to a spherical system. And then he goes into some great detail about the lunar and solar eclipse data, blah, blah, blah. And there was an interesting point here where he says, but something goofy was occurring in Antarctica. Then I'll notice the exact same profiles reoccurred for many profiles. Let me see here. He goes into it. Anyway, he's working on it. Brian in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He is trying to figure this out. I have documented everything about the gazillion sun-moon position maps for about 20 ellipse events, solar and lunar, and printed out countless NASA data sheets as used in reference. If everything pans out like it should, it's hopeful someone like you and or Rob can articulate this finding quite possibly in a YouTube bit. I want no credit if it proves accurate or usable. My background story is not very good. Sorry, I gotta drink some tea. But yeah, Brian's working on it. So thank you, Brian. Sorry, that email did not go as well as I had hoped because there was just way too much going on there. Let's see here. Brian writes, Mark, if you want, I'll be glad to send pics of a model, etc., and data for your review if necessary. I don't want to overwhelm, but like your critique. Attached resume is for reference only. Blah, blah, blah. Yep, I just screwed up that one as well. Don't want that at the moment. Sorry, guys. Again, I'm not 100% because I'm just coming off surgery. Okay, here we go. I just had, this is from Providentia Systems. I just had a 20-minute conversation with my former professor who was a DIA intel officer in charge of a U-2 ISR program during the 1970s to the 1990s. He told me how they got all the geospatial signals intelligence from U-2 platforms. None of it came from any satellites he knew of. And he also confirmed the capability of U-2, and when I said that 24 or more could cover every landmass and the oceans around the world, he corrected me and said that 10 U-2 ISR platforms could do the job just fine. As you are aware, the U-2 spy plane is part of a skunk works and funding to Lockheed, comes from black budget program, which is in the tens of billions. He also stated he has been to the super secret SCIF locations where the unmanned U-2's platforms are controlled from the ground. However, he would never go public on your show to repeat this. Even though he retired this year, I lecture for him and guest speak to his undergraduate students on counterintelligence, interrogation, and information security. Every time I have privately shared my thoughts and curiosity on an issue like this, he has always been forthright with me. Just for your information. And this guy doesn't give his name. Look, I'd love to talk to this guy, even if it's off record. I wouldn't mention his name. I haven't mentioned anybody that doesn't want to be mentioned, except, if you send your email and make a mistake here. So if he wants to talk about the U-2 spy plane and how we never actually retired the system, that we just converted them to unmanned, which would make a lot of sense because it was a beautiful design and, very, very high altitude planes. Our early spy planes. If we have unmanned versions of those that we're using for secondary purposes out there, I'd love to hear about it. So please, definitely get a hold of me. Got a minute and a half till the break. Let's see if we can do one more. Okay, we're going to do one more. Here we go. Hey, Mark, this is from Chris. I've been watching your videos and following the flat earth stuff, and I had a debate over it over the weekend with my father and the rest of the family. He definitely doesn't believe in the flat earth, but I don't think he's done enough research. He knows the classic arguments very well, but none of the stuff flat earthers say, or at least not their conclusions. I told him that when I last went to Maui, I saw the Big Island from a national park on the backside of the island. There was a sign saying it's 80 miles away. But that I could clearly see the whole island, and there was no quarter-mile water wall in between us. He claimed that it was refraction, but now he's not sure that refraction could have bent light that far. He is a PhD from the University of Illinois and a master's degree from MIT in nuclear engineering. Sounds a lot like Stanton Friedman. He's a West Point graduate and has a long career as an engineer and scientist. I thought maybe he might be a good person for you to potentially debate, but he's not quite there yet in terms of agreeing with doing the debate on YouTube. But he's agreed to speak with you on the phone if that's something you'd be willing to do. Let me know if you're interested in doing that, and maybe you can convince him to an on-air debate, and we can set something up. Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. I'd love to talk to this guy. Maybe I will. We'll be right back. Final segment.
It seems to me so strange. Check wallet for his name. His face is in the muck. I think his zipper's stuck.
Agent for Truth with Joe Bannister. Saturday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back to Strange World. I'm your host, Mark Sargent. And that was Joe Jackson, Stepping Out, from his album, Night and Day. And I mention it because it was one of the first YouTube videos, wow, first MTV videos that I ever saw. In fact, it was one of the first ones that was even out there. Great little video. You can watch it. It's on YouTube. It's a fun little video. Anyway, let's get back into our final segment, shall we? And I've got a message from Wes. Hey, Mark. Wes Stace here from Flatter News. Just wanted to see if we're taking calls tonight. If you would like to give me a call. And I have a few questions about the moon and the ISS shutting down, as well as a video I did see on the ISS, which was very interesting. Wes, I'm going to try. I got a few more emails I want to punch through. But if you are still around in the next 10, 12 minutes, then I will try to bring you in. Okay? So hang tough. So thank you, Wes. Let's get through these, shall we? These are short. Oh yeah, the Albany Daily Star. Great little story. If you want to check this out, Randy writes. He goes, NASA to abandon the ISS and move to the moon. Look this up if you get a chance. This is mainstream. This is from the Albany. That's up in Canada for you do no geography. AlbanyDailyStar.com. Science. Soonly NASA will close International. Soonly? That's a horrible title. International Space Station and will move to the moon. And they're basically saying that NASA say, oh yeah, we don't need the ISS anymore. It's like, what are you talking about? That's what else do you have? You already got rid of the space shuttle program. You already canceled the Mars mission, and now you're going to give up the ISS. Oh, but you took the $20 billion that Congress gave you. Yeah, that's fine. What are you going to spend the money on? It's going to be a heck of a wrap party for the studio, the NASA studio that you're running, because there's nothing else. What you have no other projects. Oh no, we're going to go to the moon. No, you're not. No, you're not. So thank you, Randy. Let's look that up. It's in the Albany Daily Star. NASA to abandon the ISS and move to the moon. Why Canada released that story first and why it wasn't on CNN? I would have thought that would have been pretty interesting. But no. Brad writes, hey, Mark, I enjoy your videos and I thank you for exposing NASA for their lies. I like listening to you and Patricia Steer, and your discussion with Stanton Friedman was very interesting. NASA states that Apollo 9 never left low Earth orbit. They say that its purpose was to practice docking the lunar module in space. Apollo 8 and 10 through 17 are the ones they say went to the moon. Take care, Brad. And yeah, thank you, Brad. You were the first one that actually mentioned that to me, and you're absolutely right. Apollo 9, if you believe what NASA said, because remember I said Apollo 8 through 17 actually either landed on the moon or looped the moon. That's the story they stick into. But apparently Apollo 9 didn't even go anywhere. Apollo 9 just kind of circled around Earth and did nothing. So again, the internet misses nothing. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brad. Douglas writes, what does Douglas write? Is a rainbow another proof of an enclosed Earth? When you Google rainbow, flat Earth, there is a YouTube video. What do you think? Thanks for your pioneering on this topic. Happy New Year, Doug Cornelius. Yeah, my New Year was spent in a hospital getting my appendix removed. But thank you very much for that, Doug. Here's the deal there. Look up Jesse Spots. He was the first one really that was doing work in there when it comes to trying to tie rainbows to whatever the flat Earth model is. Look up his stuff because I'm not going to be able to do it justice with the amount of time I've got left. But if you want, check out some high altitude footage of because every once in a while you get a rare usually it's a helicopter footage piece that if you can take a picture of a rainbow from above it. You actually see the whole kind of circular dome structure, and that's even cooler. Then from the top down, it's like you're looking at this kind of a ring, and then you combine the two. Yeah, it's pretty compelling. So I think the rainbow is tied. Well, ask your pastor at your church. The rainbow is supposedly a promise that the Earth was never going to be destroyed again with water, which I think was interesting because the firmament mentioned in Genesis was a barrier that was separating the waters above and the waters below. So, could there be a connection? Yeah, there could be. Patrick writes, where do the rockets go? Hey, Mark, I just watched your video of the flat Earth, but I got a question for you. The rockets that go to space, where do they go really? They sink them in the ocean. From what I understand, there's a dead spot out. The furthest point from just about anywhere is out in the South Pacific somewhere, and it's the space graveyard. And NASA doesn't even hide the fact that they'll say they'll put boosters out there. They'll say, oh yeah, the boosters, but I think they sink everything out there. To be clear, I've ever been misinterpreted. What I'm saying is there's never been an astronaut put on the top of any rocket because a rocket is just a big pile of liquid explosives. So with that in mind, Yeah, everything that gets sent up, it goes into a shallow trajectory and that gets dumped into the ocean. So, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can save what's left of my voice and bring in Wes for a minute or two because we got a few minutes left before the end of the show. Let's see what Wes from Flat Earth News wants. You ready, Wes? Here we go. Let's see if he picks up. Wes from Flat Earth News. How weird does that mean saying this? That there's actually a Wes from Flat Earth News. And he's not picking up. Way to be on the ball, Wes. There's actually a Wes. Turn down your microphone.
Right.
Way to be on the ball, Wes.
Yeah, I was right there. I was just ready to hit the phone, and then you started calling, and I'm like, hello.
That's okay.
No problem. Maybe I should shut this thing off real quick, or I'm going to get a bunch of echo.
Otherwise, you're going to get feedback.
Yeah, so let me get that off. There we go. Anyhow, I was just trying to look it up. I think I found it. I was watching it was called Chris, let's see here. It was Space Stupidity. Chris Ackfield, I think. Fake Life or something like that. But anyhow, I was watching it and I found it very interesting because he's in the space station, and I did actually see doors. Normally, when we see any videos on the ISS, you don't see any hatch doors, and I seen two of them as this guy was floating around and doing his thing, and the one thing that caught my eye, and it was for a very long time, a lot longer than it would be for the Vomit Comet.
Yeah,
I noticed his watch. He had a like kind of like a fake Rolex or whatever, but it was very loose on him, and it was floating up and down, moving up and down, and that just caught my eye.
Interesting.
And I'm like, now, yeah, and I didn't see any, because I'm always looking for wires.
Sure.
Anything that's longer than a minute and a half, I'm looking for wires.
Yeah.
And I was blown away on this one. So now I'm wondering, maybe, I know that there was a discussion that you and Jonathan had about they may have a huge container or whatever where they actually can do a zero gravity.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they're using all the tricks in the book, but and no, we don't know everything when it comes to what they're using. But yeah, they seem to be bending the rules quite a bit because the Vomit Comet supposedly can only do so much in parabolic flight. Now, that's with, of course, using civilians and safety stuff. But if you're using full-blown military, how much can you stretch that? If you can, if you can get up, because remember, military planes, even commercial airliners can get up
a lot higher.
Yeah, and get, the commercial airliners used to go up to 50,000 feet and higher. They don't anymore because there was all these weird stories about strange things that would happen above 50,000 feet. So if you started at say 55,000, how much time could you buy? Would it take you to get down to like 20,000?
Right.
20,000 feet, and someone should do the math on that, or 15,000 feet, whatever it takes. And then, of course, you just have to hang tough, and then you have to ramp up again and do it again. It's not like it's a one take deal where all you have to do is make sure that either you run a cut or you don't, or you have like a green light, red light thing where the astronauts are looking behind camera and they know exactly when they can start exploiting the zero G.
Right.
So
yeah, because I know on this video it was talking. The person who put the video out had popped in a small excerpt of a different ISS thing where a guy was saying, and we have to be really careful with water and this and that. And then they went back to the video where he was just playing around with water and it's hitting his mouth and moving off to the end and like he didn't give a hoot, because there's electrical stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting video. So I don't know how they did it. I am totally baffled. Yeah. The other thing was the moon thing. It was funny because before you even mentioned the Ghostbuster Mythbusters, I was just thinking about that very incident.
Yeah.
With the laser.
Yeah.
And you're right. They totally sold out. I felt the same way that you did because I love Mythbusters. I used to watch it all the time.
Yeah.
But when I seen that, it was right around the time that I met you, and I just went, "That's it, I'm done."
Yeah, it was silly because it went against everything else. It was like, okay, we're gonna shoot this laser, based from this observatory. They had no doubts in their mind. That was the thing that got me. It's like, no, it's absolutely 100%. From the time the show started to the time the show ended, the whole point was convinced. It was like, no, we absolutely went to the moon, and we're going to do this whole episode convince you that we went to the moon. And like with everything else, though, there's never this wavering. They never had a point where they said, well, maybe the conspiracy people are on to something. No, they never even
Didn't even bat an eye.
no,
I know.
didn't even bat an eye. It's like, no. The conspiracy, from beginning to end of that entire episode, conspiracy people are idiots. We went to the moon. The government would never lie to us ever. And it's like, oh, that's fantastic. It's great. And then
Right. Well, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's the other thing is that I don't understand why we don't have any, which they probably already do, but this is something that should be so simple. Now, me being in construction, which I've talked to you before, I've used a lot of different tools that totally prove the earth flat and not a globe. There was one tool that I had, which I absolutely loved, which was a laser measurer. I could be at one end of the room and hit the laser, and it would touch the wall, and it would come out a readout and tell me how far it is.
Yep.
Now, why don't we have something out there that we could just point to the moon and, hey, look at that, 6,584 miles.
No, mostly because of beam dispersal. The only people that own lasers that powerful.
Okay, I was waiting for you to say that, because now I'm going to snap that back at you. Then how the hell did they throw a laser out there doing the test with the Mythbusters?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, they suppose they got one particle back. Yeah, it was one photon back. Yeah, it's ridiculous because with beam dispersal, you're looking at 2 feet per mile, if it's 237,000 miles away, you're looking at 500,000 feet in width. That's way too.
You don't have a laser that big to be able to get there.
No, not and even if you could hit it, what strength? Where's the signal strength that's going to be to get it back to you? It's just not going to be there. It's I know it's aggravating. So anyway, hate to do this to you, but there's a few more emails to get. But thank you. I love the fact that you're still hanging around and listening to the show all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get in there every day. Every time you're on, I'm trying to get in there. I try to get into Patricia's room every now and then, but I keep forgetting about her show. I know it's Monday.
It's Mondays. It's Monday. Well, unless she has. Well, except we didn't do it yesterday because I was still recovering. There was no way. I mean,
I didn't get into the show when you started. But what operation did you have?
An appendectomy.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, I did it right after the show. Right after the show, I was dying, and then but I couldn't catch a ferry until the next morning, and went in the next morning, and then by New Year's Eve night, like on the 30th, I went into the operating table, and then they released me on the 31st. So I got to start 2016 without an appendix. So there you have it.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Glad you're still living.
Thank you. Anyway, you have a good rest of your night, okay?
Yeah, you too.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
So that was Wes from Flat Earth News, and he's probably turning his radio back on right now. Okay, let's punch through a last couple of these emails, and then we'll wrap up the show. So Paul writes, and he wrote this to Stacy and me, and this was actually an interesting one. There's some videos on YouTube about it, some detailed videos, and it's good though. And he goes, there's something about the flights when he was talking about. He goes, why not drop the people off at that first leg and then take a flight from Apia to Pago Pago? Why did they go all the way to Honolulu, then to Pago Pago? There is also one flight that goes from Nadi, N-A-D-I, to Sydney, then to Honolulu, then to Pago Pago. It is interesting that this is happening on the international date line. Yeah. He made some videos about this. Look at some of the flight stuff. Just do flat Earth and then type in flight and do a quick filter for like this month, and you'll see there's a lot of interesting, more flights. I mean, yeah, granted, the southern hemisphere are very exaggerated, but the ones that are in the that are near Hawaii or south of Hawaii, there's a lot of bouncing around that do not make sense, and it's really, really great. So thank you very much, Paul. Who is this one from? Alton writes, "Hey Mark, just love the information videos on the flat Earth perspective. I'm very interested in finding out more. Do you have a website? Is the dome something that can't be penetrated? We have never or can never go to space. Is the sun revolving around us? What are we sitting on? Is the Earth suspended in space?" Guys, don't send me too many questions. I'm not going to be able to get them all. I know you can't answer all these questions. Just thought I would pose them. This is very interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing. Alton from the UK. And yeah, the dome, I don't think can be penetrated. I'm a big dome believer. Other people aren't big believers in the dome. That's fine. That's their own opinion. I don't hate them. I don't even dislike them. We're going to figure this out eventually. I like the whole dome thing, though. And so do most of the major religions, which makes up 80% of the population. So you know what? I feel pretty safe in my bets. We have never gone or never can go to space. No, we can't. The entire space program from 1958 to the present has been a sham. Is the sun revolving around us? It is, but it's revolving around us in a very, very short orbit. In fact, it's revolving above us like a mobile over a child's crib. It's probably like 30 miles wide, maybe less than 100, maybe a couple hundred miles high, maybe a couple thousand miles high. We don't know, but it's above us and it's circling around us. What are we sitting on? So you got that. Is the Earth suspended in space? Well, you got to define space. Do you need space if you're in a giant building? People, we've been so conditioned. I know it's tough for people to get their heads around, but you got to understand that you don't need space if you can simulate space. Because people say, well, why, can't we just have the stars? Can't Jupiter and Saturn and everything be real? It's like, yeah, but why? If everyone believes the illusion, then you go with the illusion. You don't build the real thing. It's called efficiency in design. And, even the divine would go along with that. And that is, you fake it until you make it, which means nobody, you don't build planets and a solar system unless you have to. No different than, I'm going to use it. People, you can hate me for it if you want. And that is the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, the old Disney ride down in Anaheim, California. Go down there when you get a chance, go into that harbor and tell me where the sky ends and the roof and the ceiling start. And you can't find it. And you see the stars, but you don't know how far away they are. And we're talking about rickety movie technology, studio technology from the 50s and the 60s. Imagine what you could do with advanced technology. So there you have it. Okay, getting down to our emails now. I actually meant to get all through them. M writes, "Hey, did you notice that Eric DeBay's website for the International Flat Earth Research Society, otherwise known as IFRS, has been taken down? It hasn't been on for a while, and this is the first time I tried to get over the last 10 days. Could have happened a while ago, just noticed today." Yeah, he has a backup site. I have not been to it. Apparently, there was some sort of breach or disagreement between whoever was hosting the original website. Don't know why it took it that long. I don't know if it was an anti-Semitic thing. Who knows? But yeah, the IFRS site, the official IFRS site, is down. And it looks like it is not going to be coming back up on that web address. So do not, if you want to look up Eric's stuff, you're going to have to go to a different place. And I do not know, other than that, I do not know the details of why it got struck down. Maybe he's going to address it in the video. I hopefully he will. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of speculation, and that probably won't end well for anybody. So William writes, "Hey, Mark, you want to do an interview?" Yeah, I do want to do an interview, William. And hopefully I will. I've got 2 or 3 more interviews coming up. Just so you know, we've got some time, I can ramble a little bit. There's a couple interviews I haven't even put up yet. You guys have seen the ones recently. The Jimmy Church video, I'm still waiting for him to post that on Fade to Black. I did a wonderful video on Fade to Black with Jimmy Church. And he's the backup host for Coast to Coast, and went really, really well. Loved it. And as soon as that thing is up, I will set it to slides and I will put it up on my site, and you guys will have a blast with that. And then there's another group in Australia that wants to get a hold of me, another group in England, another group in California. So I should have another 3 or 4 interviews. You do not have to listen to them all. I know there's some, I have some that are more, I enjoy more than others. I love them from other countries, just because it's fun to deal with, people with accents. But anyway, thank you for all the people that have done the the interview stuff. I'm hoping to break, not just 100 interviews this year, but maybe even do some some video stuff, some alternative media. I don't will the Young Turks have me on? I doubt it. We'll see if any even pseudo mainstream with Russia Today, that would that's a goal I should set. Russia Today, on top of doing some sort of weird flat Earth reality show, Russia Today, that would be a great one to be on. Because they run with a few things. They don't run with a lot of things, but they do run with some things. I think they could have some fun. Tonus writes, first, I would like to apologize for my English mistakes. It is not my first language, nor my second or my third. But like most people, I would like to thank you for your videos and interviews. I listen to your interviews at work and love the flat Earth idea. I'm a big mystery guy. I love everything that isn't mainstream. You have opened my eyes to a whole new way of thinking, and that I welcome very much. Also, say hi to Jonathan. Sorry if I misspelled his name. And if you have no idea where Estonia is or have never heard of this country, then no problem. Most people have never heard of it. But we made and invented Skype, something that I think even you use. A small country, we have to be proud of all our achievements. Thanks again, and keep doing what you're doing. P.S. Get Jonathan back. Thank you, by the way, Tonus. And yes, I absolutely know where Estonia is. It is south of Finland, if I'm not mistaken, because I was in 2 different episodes or 2 different issues of what I consider to be the greatest conspiracy magazine of all time, and a very new one, Telegram, Telegram magazine, printed out of Estonia. And I believe the editor is, I'm gonna butcher his name, Hondo Tonuma, Tonuma something. And he is on YouTube and he's a great guy. And yeah, he ran so many pages on the stuff I did. On top of that, all the people that came out, the professionals, the Navy guys, the Army guys, the engineers, anyone that I interviewed on this show that came out and talked about flat Earth, he put in the magazine, that last episode or the last issue. So yeah, I know Estonia. So yeah, look up Telegram magazine there, Tonus. Thank you. And, check it out. In fact, how do you not know about this magazine? It's your country. You have the greatest conspiracy magazine in the world. And you know this. You have Skype and you have that. You have these 2 things. So thank you. I got a few minutes left. Just enough time to squeeze in a few more emails. Nick writes, hello, I watched your video series and have a question. What about the Coriolis effect? My brother is a sniper and basically said that debunks this theory. Is there an explanation to this? Thank you for taking the time. Take care, Nick. Nick, you got to talk to your brother and get a manual from him, because everybody I have talked to, including United States Marine Corps sniper instructor for 3 years, said there was no Coriolis effect. Used artillery, 2 howitzer crews, including a radar operator, 1 out of Afghanistan, 1 out of Fallujah, shooting at 30 miles. They're not using the Coriolis effect. Submarine chief using torpedoes, missiles. I know a Coriolis effect there. And most notably, the United States Navy missile commander, who is still in 10 years, Sean McCrary, he comes out and says, yeah, we're shooting at least 60 miles, painting targets. And we're not using a Coriolis effect. So if he's got something, and again, for those who don't know what you're talking about, the Coriolis effect, that means you're adjusting for the Earth's spin, which means if you are going to do any sort of artillery fire or tank fire or missile fire or anything, not only do you have to care about the curvature of the Earth, which you're not doing, but you also have to care which way you're facing to account for the spin. Because are you facing north-south, northwest, southeast, northeast, southwest? All these things would have to play into it. And to date, I've never heard of any sniper or anything saying, which way exactly are we facing? Exactly which we're facing, because we have to plot in the Coriolis effect. It's never happened. So, and I'm waiting for a professional to come out and show me the chart. Exactly which direction you're pointing, and where are you on the globe that accounts for it. And where that goes into your firing solution. Nobody has come forward yet. waiting for them. Waiting. I've got people on the other side, all the military people on the other side, that's saying it's not there. We've all heard of it. That's what they all say. We've all heard of it, but it's not there. 1 minute to the break and the end of this show. So, yeah, let's end this one. Here we go. Ready? Hans writes, we got time. I would like to point out the seal of Jezebel as shown in the Israeli Antiquities Authority collection at the Israeli Museum, Jerusalem. This shows a lion, sphinx, animal, human with wings on a flat surface surrounded by a dome, but the dome is continuing beneath the earth. It also shows, if I interpret this right, an underworld. Crap. I'm not going to finish it. Hey, we'll see you guys next time.
40 days and 40 nights, didn't it rain, children? Not a speck of land in sight, didn't it rain? But Noah built the ark so tight, they sailed on, children. And when at last the waters receded, and the dove brought back the olive tree leaf, he landed that ship near Mount Ararat, and one of his children grabbed Noah's robe and said,
Hey, Dad, how many animals on this old ark anyway, huh?
Elementary, my dear, 2 times 2 is 4. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 3 is 6. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 4 is 8. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 1 is 2, of course, and it must occur to you. You get an even number every time you multiply by 2. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 6 is 12. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 7 is 14. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 8 is 16. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 10 is 20. 11 twice is 22. Double 12, that's 24. 13 twice is 26. 14 twice is 28. 15 twice is 30. Now you build it up on 30. 16 twice is 32. Elementary. 17 twice is 34. Elementary. 18 twice is 36. Elementary. 19 twice is 38. Elementary. 20 twice is 40, and it must occur to you. You can double any number, all you do is multiply by 2. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 2 is 4. Woo. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 3 is 6. Yeah. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 4 is 8. Woo. Elementary, my dear, 2 times 5 is 10. Yeah. Now, if you want to multiply 2 times 174, or some big number like that, 2 times 174 equals 2 times 100 plus 2 times 70 plus 2 times 4. That's all. So 2 times 174 equals 200 plus 140 plus 8 are 348. It's elementary. 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 Twice 32 is 64. Elementary. Twice 33 is 66. Elementary. Twice 34 is 68. Elementary. Twice 35 is 70. Elementary. Yeah, yes, it's elementary. Yeah. Now, what's 2 times 98?
Aw, that's hard.
No, it's very simple. 2 times 98 equals 2 times 100 minus 2 times 2. That's 200 minus 4, 196. Elementary. 40 days and 40 nights, didn't it rain, children?
How about that anthem, huh? Gee, I don't know about you, but I just get a great big lump in my throat every time I hear it. Well, it's 7:05 in the a.m., and it's wow, 43 degrees on the old Camp Northstar weather dial, and that is kind of nippy for a June 25, isn't it? Whew. I'm Trooper Harrison. I'm your head counselor, and this is my wake-up show. I'll be coming at you every morning about this time, hoping to make your summer camp experience the best available in this price range. Of course, across the lake, over at Camp Mohawk, they won't be getting up for another hour or so. And when they do, they'll be awakened by servants bearing croissants and cafe au lait. Oops, hope I didn't hit anybody. But over here at Camp Northstar this morning, we're going to be having a delicious gruel breakfast. And don't forget to ask for seconds because it's all the gruel you can eat.